lightsaber with intent to kill, and she survives also. So I don't know. I like it. I like that there's more gray areas, and it's not just you're alive or you're chopped up or you're dead. You know. So Steve, can I say so? Okay, so Sabine unlocks this map thing.
Yep.
And we also we learn, this is big. We learn, which the trailers hinted at, we learn that Sabine was training under Ahsoka. Ahsoka took Sabine as a Padawan and was attempting to teach her to be a Jedi. And for some reason, walked away from it at some point. We find that out in episode 2. Now, that's huge.
The thing with that, like, I know it's a big, everyone's like, oh, is Sabine, like, how can she be force sensitive? We didn't know any of this, blah, 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 from Rebels. The one thing I did note, and I loved that they mentioned Hu Yang when he was talking to Sabine, mentioned, or might have been when he was talking to Ahsoka, that Sabine's aptitude for the Force is extremely low, lower than any of Hu Yang's apprentices that he's ever encountered.
He says it straight to Sabine.
Yeah, was it to her? Yeah.
Yes, lower than any other student that he's ever encountered.
Right, and it's like, okay, for some reason that made me feel better of like,
oh, for sure.
There wasn't like, why was Kanan not training her or whatever? And it's like, oh, okay, because, you know, she's not really that good, but you train everybody you can when you're you're down to nobody.
There's 2 of you in the entire galaxy, whatever, you know.
The last guy got blown up in a fireball, and then the other one flew off with a space whale. So, oh shit, we've got some things we got to do.
Right. And there's one other guy, but he seems more into building a temple and teaching than helping me out here. So I need someone on my side. And because there's not even a hint of her being force sensitive. There are hints of her. I mean, Kanan teaches her how to wield the Darksaber, and she's able to do that.
Right.
And she's able to use Ezra's. And I mean, in that sequence, because I just recently watched it, the Rebels episode where Kanan is teaching Sabine to use the lightsaber, he talks about how there is a connection, and she is able to make a connection with the saber in order to wield it. And you see in Mandalorian, you see Din Djarin struggle to make that connection. Like, he is unable to do that. Like, it's so heavy for him and he can't do it. And Sabine is able to at least have enough force sensitivity where she can make a connection with the blade.
Right.
So there's something there. I guess that alone is the one whiff of hint that we get that she is able to utilize the force in any way.
Yeah.
But, you know, we certainly never hear her say, like, I don't know, I just have a feeling, or, you know, move something with her mind. Like, you know, certainly never anything like that.
Yeah. Sabine with a lightsaber is like me with a guitar. Like, I know enough to be dangerous, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I mean, Ezra does leave a lot on her shoulders, kind of, not specifically, but he's, you know, he says, I'm counting on you. And he indirectly gives her his lightsaber. So, like, maybe he senses something in her as well, or did.
Yeah, could be.
And maybe that could be something that we get explored. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do we want to dive back into chronologic? Because, like, Ahsoka down in that, when she found the map, those carvings and all of the lines and everything, like, all I could think of was, like, Mortis and World Between Worlds, and everything was kind of that feel. And I'm like, okay, they're not shying away from any of that.
No, they are. Embracing it. Which I think is great,
into it
because,
seems
like,
to be right.
Because, like, why else would you're taking an animated character, and we've known for years that these shows are canon. Like, this is what happened. So if that's what happened, then that should be represented in live action as well. Yes, I thought the same thing. Yeah, because we had just recently watched the World Between Worlds episode with the whole painting and everything too. So I was just like, yep, this is, I mean, and it didn't look exactly the same, but it looked enough like it that both of us and my wife even were reminded of it.
Yep.
But because it was, you know, it's a Night Sister temple, it's not a Jedi temple. So yeah, the construction, the design was a little different, but still reminiscent.
Same kind of feel to it. But then you snap right from that to the amazing Clancy Brown as Ryder Azadi. like the
I
voice of
didn't know
Ryder.
that he was in this show.
No, I
I
didn't
don't
either.
remember reading that he was in it. It's amazing.
I also
It's
didn't
perfect.
know that when they animated Ryder Rosati, they just animated Clancy Brown. Because holy hell,
Yeah, no, I knew that, and immediately that's who he was before
Yeah.
I even recognized his voice. I was
Yep.
like, oh, yeah, that's right, he did the voice. Like, that's
Yep.
wow, yeah, it's perfect. Like, did they design that character
I don't know
after
if
him,
they like
being like,
yeah,
wait, hey, someday,
right,
because he's looked like that for a long time. He's looked grizzled and white haired with a beard for a
right.
very long time. So, yeah, super cool.
And
And
did
then
did you catch the other Rebels reference in there as to who the senator was that was speaking?
okay, yeah, that name was familiar, but I didn't remember who it was.
Jai Kell, one of the other imperial, like the Ezra's time in the academy.
Yes. Okay. That's who I thought. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. So
Yeah,
cool.
his the other one that came and became a rebel with him
Right.
ended
Yeah.
up being the senator from Lothal.
Senator for Lothal. That's super cool. And yeah, and then we cut to the cool speeder bike thing stunt with Sabine.
Yeah, and the
which was
E-wings,
awesome.
which like that was just great. Now,
Where do they? What letter are they?
E.
E-wings. Okay.
Yep.
E-wings.
Now, though, like, do you think that was her? Like, was that her squadron?
They were calling her commander.
It almost felt
I mean, I
like
don't know.
she was like that. They were a little too familiar with her. So
Yeah.
either like she
I think
was
they
in the
probably
command
were.
structure, or like she was flying with them, or whatever.
Well, I think based on the end of Rebels, I feel like she stayed on Lothal.
Yeah.
Because like she interpreted Ezra's message to be, I need to stay here and look after Lothal. So I
Yeah.
don't think she was like commanding them in the Battle of Endor or anything like that.
Right.
But I think she was probably commander of Lothal's military for a while, maybe, or something like that. So yes, I do think there was a familiarity for sure. And he like just pulled off and he was like, okay, I get it. She's not going to stop. I'm just going to leave her alone.
The other thing that made me think that was that they were referred to as Spectre Squadron.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yes.
And
that makes sense.
the Ghost Crew was Spectre 1, Spectre 2.
Yep.
Like that was their
Yeah.
call signs. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
so yeah, that kind of tip. I'm like, huh, maybe that is like maybe she was the commander there or some sort of structure.
Yeah.
Also, in-universe punk apparently solid.
Yeah, I said to my wife, I was like, I don't think I've ever heard drums in Star Wars before, at least not in live action Star Wars. But yeah, that was cool. I gotta
Okay.
find that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Then they when she gets to the tower, they hint to the, you have the Lothcat scene, and then they hint to the armor in the bag, which was like,
Yeah.
all right, that's coming out at some point.
Yep. And that's a big character thing too. Just knowing that she put it away.
Yeah,
You
knowing
know,
that we
when
never saw her
Mandalorians-
in Rebels at all with it off
Yeah. Right.
till the last shot, right?
Yeah, unless she was like disguised as a stormtrooper or something.
Right.
Like
Well, she was in
no, she's
other
wearing it
armor.
in the last shot.
Is
She's
she?
wearing it in the last
Okay.
shot because the last shot is her going with Ahsoka.
Okay,
So
it's been 4 years since I saw that. So
yeah,
I
watched it
literally-
yesterday.
I get so because they moved up the release date, I got
Yeah.
to Jedi Knight on Monday.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, the last two I can watch on Tuesday and then watch this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Well, there's four or five more, I think.
Is there after?
Jedi Knight?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
but last
would've
night
been- it would've
everything
been a
was wide
crunch.
open. Well, last night everything was
Yeah.
wide open because my wife was
That's
busy.
true.
So I was like, oh, I'll finish it
Yeah.
up and voila.
Yeah.
But, so right now
Yeah.
my last memory of Rebels is Kanan's Sacrifice. So
yes.
still also a good note to go out on, but would have liked to finish it.
Incredible. So yeah, just knowing that her armor is in a bag, and I guess even if you don't know that she's Mandalorian, like you haven't watched Rebels, you
Yep.
do get that line from Hera, who we have already met by this time in the episode. I think Hera has said to Ahsoka already, like, well, she's Mandalorian, she's tough, or something like that.
At which point my
Or
wife
if they
was like,
don't, we-
she's Mandalorian?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then you see, when you see the helmet sticking
Yep.
out of the bag, you're like, oh, even if I haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels, I know from Mandalorian that
Yeah.
this armor should be sacred and she's not clearly not treating it well.
Yep.
But just to jump to something that I said, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera Syndulla, big fan,
Yeah.
loved it, thought she was great.
She had a couple of little vocal intonations that I was like, oh, she definitely studied this one.
I thought that about Bordizzo as
Yes.
Sabine as
Yep.
well. Like there was definite, and there was times where she looked like her too. Like
I
they
was
did like
gonna
the
say,
eye makeup so much where she
yeah.
looked a lot like Sabine for sure.
And the mannerisms, like especially the payoff at the end when she puts the armor back on, and like when she's holding the armor or the helmet at her side, I'm just like, I've seen that how many times in animation.
Yeah.
Of like her walking in exactly like that with the helmet on her side and the pixie cut and everything. I'm like, oh, Sabine's back. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so cool.
Yep.
So cool.
Ezra. The Ezra expose next would chronologically.
I wish that we had gotten a little bit of a closer shot of him.
Yeah.
Because like it was kind of from a distance. We're like watching it over her shoulder.
Yep.
And he looked good.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see his face up close, and I couldn't. But he also did a thing. Speaking of mannerisms, he did like a thing where he like reached up and itched his head or whatever while he was talking. And my wife's like, "That's a big Ezra thing." I was like, "Yeah, I
100%.
agree." It's like a
yeah.
So that was cool. So yeah, she got her own separate holo message from him apparently before he left at the end of Rebels, which again is. And again, in that separate message, he says, "I'm counting on you." So,
well,
also having just watched,
it's very Star Wars in that he refers to her like a sister, and I'm pretty sure that's not how he thought of Sabine for a long time.
Yeah, he definitely had a crush on her for a long in the early seasons.
Yeah,
they kind of abandoned that in like season 3 and 4, end of season 3 and 4, I think. So like,
a little bit more so.
Yeah. But going back, like again, he's putting a lot on her shoulders because having just watched the last episode of Rebels, he says it to her face. He says, "I'm counting on you."
Yep.
He says it in the holo message that is for the group. Sabine, I'm counting on you. And then apparently she got a third message of "I'm counting on you" specifically sent to her. Like, yo, no wonder she's having dreams of him and obsessing over where he is and feeling guilty. Like that's kind of what she's going through. Like, no wonder, because he's given her this, like, if she was more force sensitive, she'd be able to like kind of like figure out or feel like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but as we've already talked about, she's not. So maybe she's struggling with it a little bit more, figuring out what she's supposed to do, which she even says in the last episode of Rebels. She said, "I thought your message was this, but now I know I'm supposed to go and find you."
Right.
So she gets there eventually, but it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think, are we through the first episode? I think, because we were jumping around. So unless you have
we hit on some of this, like the Death Mary stuff. T6 escorted from Ezra's tower. Yep. Oh, there were a couple lines. I walked away from Anakin like I walked away from Sabine. We saw that in the trailer, and I feel like it hit more when we saw it in the episode.
I didn't watch that trailer.
Yeah,
I stopped watching trailers for this a while ago, so
I
loved that line when I heard it, for sure. Yeah, it's such a crazy thing. Like, it's not crazy because it's all canon, and we've known it's all canon for years. But having a hardcore animation character like Ahsoka talking to a hardcore animation character, Hera. Now they're both in live action, and one of them just said Anakin Skywalker's name, who we've seen in both. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like that line for me was like just tying everything together. Like, and I've heard her say Anakin's name a million times in animation, but for some reason, hearing her say it in live action just connected that dot to like the original trilogy even harder for me. Like, she's talking about Darth Vader when she says that, and I'm
her
just like,
master.
Wow. Yeah. I'm just like, wow, this is like, I love Star Wars. It's just great.
Yep.
Great.
So yeah,
that was a great line.
Effectively, we touched kind of on the rest of the episode. of what we've seen. We did get the Mystery Inquisitor shows up during that
Yep.
Dathomiri scene.
Yeah.
That's all we get of him in episode 1, him or her.
Yeah.
But
Certainly more in episode 2.
But yeah, then we get, Sabine dying. Of course, doesn't die, but then it cuts to
Getting the run through.
like emotionally for our friend Ray.
Yeah, I know.
Which, like, after watching him kill it in that episode, like, that was amazing.
Both these episodes,
Stevenson, yeah, and yeah. So that was a nice touch.
Yeah, agreed.
And then into like episode 2 opens with, of course, Sabine's fine.
Yes. Not a back to tank in sight, by the way.
No.
I gotta say, nursing her back to health without the help of a back to tank. Wow.
Yeah.
Go Star Wars. Figuring it out. Advancements in medicine.
So while they're having their little tryst and falling out there between the two of Sabine and Ahsoka in the med bay.
Yeah.
Ahsoka says something that I don't know if you picked up on, but in my brain, all I could think of, the way she said, "You've done enough," and in my brain, I'm like, Anakin said that to her at some point. Like, I could distinctly, I don't know when or where, but I was like, why do I think Anakin said that to her at one point?
Yeah, I think you're right.
It stuck with me where it was like, oh, okay. Or maybe it was like Kanan and Ezra or something, but like I thought it was Anakin to Ahsoka.
I can hear that as well. I really liked her delivery of it because it was like right in between gracious and like what's the opposite of that?
Yeah, it was like a perfect backhanded like
yes, exactly. Or being like angry about something, like it was like, you've done enough and you've done enough.
Yeah.
But it was like right in the middle of those two. So you could interpret it either way.
Yep.
And interesting.
Yeah.
I think.
I still I was trying to figure out, I had to write down, I'm like, I'm pretty sure Anakin said that. Like it just felt
I feel like certainly someone says it to somebody else somewhere, but it definitely seems
it's definitely a recurring Star Wars quote type thing.
Yeah.
In that
because
context.
Because and they touch on this too, like Ahsoka can be difficult. She can be very stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they are continuing that part of her arc, which they don't really do in Rebels too much. In Rebels, she is more of like a authority figure.
Yeah.
So they don't really touch on her impatience and stubbornness sometimes. But they do in this show, which I liked. I liked the return of that. Okay, but Steve, I think this is a good time to do it because they dive into it more in episode 2. For me, there's one thing in this show that I think is possibly the most mind-blowing introduction of any concept in any Star Wars since any Star Wars in forever. 46 years ago, in 1977, the first words we ever got in a Star Wars movie are, a long time ago in a galaxy, far, far away, singular.
Yep.
One galaxy. Steve, this show is setting up the fact that we are going to travel out of this galaxy to a different galaxy, a galaxy without Tatooine in it.
Yeah.
A different galaxy. And yet staying in Star Wars universe, that is huge. That's huge. Am I wrong? That's huge, right?
No, it's huge, and it's actually like it's lore and canon breaking.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's
like,
what a galaxy. Not in one of many galaxies far, far away.
Right.
A galaxy.
Like even in all of Legends, only once did like an extra galactic force come into the Star Wars galaxy.
Wow,
and
really?
that was the Yuuzhan Vong like invading. And it was huge. Like it was a 18-book arc.
But still, no one left.
No.
They came.
After the fact, yeah. But
okay.
But like, yeah, just like it was Jason Solo, it was Ben Solo or Han Solo and Leia's kid,
Right.
who
Okay.
ended up
As far
becoming
as
a Dark Lord of the Sith. Go figure.
right.
But
As far as new canon goes,
yeah, there's nothing.
nothing. So for me, that was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Now at the
Like
same
we're
time,
going somewhere else.
this blows apart. If you listen to Monday's episode with me and Tom, we talked a lot about the unknown regions and the way that was all set up in Legends and even in new canon with the Chiss. And the Chiss actually are currently in canon at risk of incursion from possible extragalactic whatever. But this like wipes out most of the unknown regions. Like why are we going extragalactic when there's still a whole bunch you don't know in the known galaxy? And yeah, I don't know, it's the whole thing's kind of weird as far as how it fits into canon, and we'll see where it goes. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
I'm 100%
kinda,
with you where it's just like, what, we're going where? Okay, cool.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, we as humans are a species who have not mastered interplanetary travel.
No.
Yet we know that there are other galaxies. We know that we live in a galaxy, and there are millions and billions of other ones out there. So it makes sense that they would know about other galaxies. But wild that not once in the last 46 years of Star Wars have we ever gone to one. It all takes place in the same galaxy. Wild and crazy to me that they were going somewhere else. I was blown away by that, the concept of it. And I think to your point, unknown regions aside, if Ezra and Thrawn have disappeared and gone somewhere that is untraceable and no one knows where they are at all, then it makes sense that it would need to be somewhere farther away.
Yeah.
To steal a line from another franchise where, gone where no man has gone before, boldly, if you will. So I think it makes sense that they would have gone somewhere, the unknown, quote unquote, unknown regions. Someone knows what's going on there. Like you could probably find somebody that could take you somewhere in the unknown regions. That's a classic Star Wars thing. Like, I need a ship to this distant place that no one wants to go to.
I need a guy.
So I like it, but I'm very intrigued and interested in what's going to happen. What's going to be there?
Yep.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we'll see.
That was my big point. Yeah. So anyway, episode 2. Sabine's okay. Hooray. Great. I know we've talked about some episode 2 stuff because I can't go in a straight line.
Right. So the Sabine and Hera conversation and interaction. Like, that just, it felt right.
I agree. Yep. It felt like the 2 characters from Rebels.
Right.
Yeah.
Hera still has a little of the mother in her, and Sabine is still Sabine.
Yeah.
Just like that
was
was the thing that stuck with me, is Natasha Liu Bordizzo's portrayal of Sabine felt like the animated character. Not in like, not in a weird way, but like 100% felt like it was a continuation of what we knew Sabine to be.
Yeah, and it felt like natural.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like she was trying too hard to capture something. Like it felt like a natural progression from animation to live action. So they go to Corellia. We see the bad guys. We see Morgan and Balin and Shin and Mr. Inquisitor at some temple. They don't really specify who built it. They just say it's very centuries old.
Right.
Looking at the star map, specifying they were going to a different galaxy, farther away.
Yeah.
And then they go to Corellia, and I got excited when they said Corellia. I was like, "What? We've only been to Corellia once in Solo, and now we're going back." I'm excited.
Yep.
I feel like there's 2 extremes with Star Wars. It's either we're going to a new planet every single time, or we're going back to Tatooine.
Yeah.
We're going places you've been a million times, or we're going to something new. And go back to Corellia. Sure, I would love to go visit that place again. And I think they do a good job. Looks like Looks like it did when we saw it in Solo. Gloomy. Actually, this is daylight, so it's a little brighter gloom.
Right.
And among other things that we get at Corellia, we meet live action Chopper for the first time.
So good. So good.
Big fan of this. So good.
Like,
so good.
They made him as expressive as he is.
Yep.
And also, I don't know if it's like they always made it so his voice was kind of, you could tell what he was saying.
Yes.
But I feel like they almost made it even more for this.
It's one of my favorite things about Chopper's top 3 droids for me.
Yes.
It's like R2 and 3PO because of nostalgia, and Chopper is right there at number 3.
I would probably put Chopper above 3PO.
Yeah, I can see that. I admit that 3PO's too because of nostalgia and for no other reason. But yeah, one of my favorite things about watching Rebels is trying to guess what Chopper said, and it's a lot of times it's easy to figure out. Sometimes because the character will repeat it right afterwards, but sometimes they don't, and it's still fun to figure out what he said and the rhythm of it. And they nail it. They nailed it in this one too. And like, I mean, we're saying like, oh, the characters are written exactly the same way. Yeah, it's because the same guy wrote it. You know, like it helps when the same guy that wrote Rebels or came up with Rebels is writing these episodes too. So it shouldn't be a shock that it feels right.
Right.
But it does. And we get to see the Phantom also, which is super cool.
Yep.
I'm excited, assuming that we're going to see the Ghost at some point.
We're going to have
seeing the Phantom. Seeing the Phantom was just as cool.
Yeah.
I think I was very excited to see that. Also a very green screeny volume tour of one of the Corellian factories.
Yep.
I thought when they were riding on that little thing, like you could tell they weren't really going through a factory. Just looked a little green screen. They did a pretty good job matching the shadows and the light and stuff like that, but it's still
they were still some
green screen. Really loved, and this is something that Dave Filoni likes to do, as we know from things like Bad Batch, exploring like in Bad Batch, he's exploring the fall of the Republic and the transition from like clones to stormtroopers and things like that. In this, he's talking about the dismantling of the Empire and like, Morgan Elsbeth doesn't own any shipyards anymore, but the workers are same workers because we need people to work. So yes, there are Imperial people that used to be Imperial working at every level of this facility.
Right.
And which I thought was just a throwaway line that I loved, but then it sets up the fact that a bunch of them are in that room. I don't know when they're looking at that ship, and then they attack Ahsoka and Hera, which I think it was a cool way to set that up. And even if you missed it, they have one of the guys go, "For the Empire," which is unnecessary to announce, "I'm about to attack you from behind. Turn around and kill me." But
just look at me and then stab you with a lightsaber. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But obviously, I get why they have to leave that in there and do all that stuff.
My notes for this section were Corellia Shipyard in live action! ! Chopper, all caps, !
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. One thing we did miss was the mention of the Eye of Sion, which we find out what it is later. But
wait, do we?
Yeah.
That's the thing that was
the hyperspace ring there that they were stealing the engine for.
Yes. Okay.
And the giant hyperspace ring looks like a huge version of what we would see in the prequels. To be used for like the Jedi starfighters and that. So curious. I'm assuming that's for the extragalactic travel.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if it's that big. Is it that big because it's got to go so much farther than anyone's ever gone, or is it that big because, or for both reasons, is it that big because the ship that they're going to be using is a huge one? Like, are they going to go in like a Star Destroyer or something?
Right?
Because we've only seen it for like single light fighters, like Obi-Wan's Starfighter and Attack of the Clones. We've only seen like the smaller ones. We've never seen one that big. So I'll be interested to see what ship they take to get there.
Or did they make it that big just because it looks cool?
Well, that's also a possibility. Just one tiny little ship in this humongous ring. But the ring itself also has like like it's like a space station also,
Oh, yeah.
because the last scene of the episode, they're in there.
Yep.
So I guess maybe they don't even need a ship. Maybe it's just going to be the ring.
Yep. And then we
Who
do
knows?
finally get Elspeth notes that Marok will complete his task. And that's the first time we actually get the mention of the name of Mr. Inquisitor Boy.
Okay, that's the Inquisitor.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I heard because Balin says it as well, but I didn't realize who they were talking about.
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah,
I
makes sense
I had to look that up after the fact. I was like, who is that?
Okay.
And then I looked up, I like phonetically tried to spell that very poorly and eventually got
Yeah.
to where it's Marrok, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Which
I
is
would have
not in any way, shape, or form how I spelled it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of Marok, we get a super badass move back on Corellia from Ahsoka, who blows the window out with her lightsabers and just straight jumps out of it.
Yep.
While Hera runs to the Phantom. And very cool fight between her and Marok and the other assassin droid there.
Yep.
And there's one cool move where like she stabs the droid and kind of uses it as a shield and moves around it, and they cut it in half.
Yep.
And they kind of like spin around and it falls apart while they're looking at each other. That was really dope.
Yeah.
That was really
the
cool fight
choreography in this
all
was
around.
really solid.
Yeah, and like she like pushes him away with the Force
Yep.
at some point, or her away at the Force, and stops themselves.
Well, and it's funny because the choreography of that first fight where she fought the 4 assassin droids.
Yeah.
I was like, something doesn't quite feel right. Like it almost felt like kind of half baked ish.
Yeah.
And then I realized as they progressed through things, I'm like, oh, they were trying to show that she didn't actually need to do shit to beat these guys.
Right. Yeah.
And then later
I think it's possible that some of the fighting is limited when you're shooting in the volume, and I think
Also
both
true,
those scenes were shot there because like you are in a specific space.
Yep.
And it's not that I like the volume is good at what it does most of the time. It's not foolproof. Like I mentioned, like I can tell in this show when they're using it a lot sometimes. But you're in a confined space.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a giant green screen studio, you can have a green screen the size of a huge wall or whatever, and you can move around a lot more. Like the volume is a circle. It's a circular screen that they're standing in the middle of.
Yep.
So like the camera can only move so far. Like there's only like so much you can do. So that might have been why. And honestly, Steve, I don't know. I think Dave Filoni is a better animation director than he is a live action director.
Yeah, I can see that.
I know he's done Mandalorian episodes. I don't remember specifically which ones, but like I noticed the difference. Like I thought the second episode was better directed than the first episode.
Yes.
And he did the first one and someone else did the second one. And that remains to be seen. We'll see if that continues. But he also, the episode that Ahsoka shows up in Mandalorian is one that he did, and that one's great.
That was great.
That one's great. So, I can't say it's specifically that, but certainly not everything on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But Marok gets away. The droid gets killed. And, so we're at this amazing scene where Chopper is searching frantically in his drawer, I guess his little droid drawer for a tracker, hilariously. Can't find it, is arguing with her about where it is. That scene was so great. That was like perfect. I thought it was great Star Wars humor. I don't know, it just felt right humor wise, it felt right character wise.
It felt like
it was a great
one of those scenes where like Chewie and Han are going at it in the Falcon.
Yeah.
Like it had that same feel.
Yeah, and classic Star Wars where it's like humor during a scene that is like an action scene at the same time. Like they find a way to make it funny without completely negating like the tension of what they're trying to do. Like, come on, Chop, you got to get that. Hurry up. We're almost there.
Would it help if I got out and pushed?
Yeah, exactly. It might. That kind of thing. I thought it was really funny. I was laughing out loud.
Yep.
And then him doing like the put his arms up at the end is awesome. And like spinning around to get momentum to throw it was also awesome too. As she flew the Phantom over the top of it. It was really cool. That
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah, that whole
Man.
like, I liked a lot about these episodes. Chopper might have been the MVP.
He's the best. He's the best. I wish that he'd gotten. I mean, this probably was like. I guess I don't know if Chopper's practical or animated. I couldn't really tell. It's really good
I
CGI if he's
thought
not
he was
practical. He might have been, but I
or at least
wanted to see him
mostly
scooting
practical.
around. Yeah, I wanted to see him like moving around, but he was in the Phantom the whole time.
Yeah.
And I wish that he had been out of it at some point. But
Actually, yeah, in the trailer that I saw, I think I saw the two main trailers, and I don't remember him out.
yeah, I'm sure. I think he was really the teaser that I saw him in was just really. It was just for
those
this episode. It
shots,
was him in the yeah. So I'm sure at some point we'll get him, full form.
Question will be
rolling
whether he's as animated as
Yeah.
not pun intended, but like
Right. I get what you mean.
yeah, if he's moving
Yeah.
around as much.
Yeah. So yeah, what else? I think so they put the tracker on and they reveal the eye of what is it?
Scion.
Which is going to be really hard for me not
curious
to say the eye of Sauron. I feel like.
I'm curious if that's a reference to Darth Scion from the KOTOR games. So we'll find out more on that later, but or maybe we won't. But yeah, it was.
Did you notice?
Popped into my head of like, okay, Darksiders talking about a Scion. Okay, let's see.
Did you notice in the final scene that the hologram technology aboard the Eye of Scion was different than other Star Wars hologram technology?
No.
Like it just looks different. It was
Yeah.
like it wasn't as like blue and it was like dustier almost. Like it
Okay.
almost looked like Wakandan or something like that. Like
Gotcha.
I don't know, it's strange. When you watch it again with your wife,
Yeah.
like when Elsbeth is talking to Balin or like at the end, it just looks like it just looks different. I don't know.
Yeah, because that was like 11:30 last night, so the attention span was low.
Sure. Yeah, so we get Sabine finally realizing that she needs to go and needs to help Ahsoka, and does the great reference to Kanan Jarrus cutting his hair. Same thing she does with the knife, with the helmet right in front of her. Awesome. Lays out her armor. And then we get the recreation of the final scene of Star Wars Rebels, where she is looking at the mural and turns around and Ahsoka is there. Now, I'm not somebody that needs every little detail of continuity between movies, whether it's Star Wars or otherwise. Like, big stuff, of course, got to make sense. But that last scene in Rebels, when she turns around, Ahsoka's standing there with a white cloak on, and she's holding some big staff out like this. And they didn't do that. And I got to wonder why they didn't do that. Like, it would have been easy to do that.
Right.
I don't know why they wouldn't. Like, it doesn't bother me so much that I'm going to take points off of this show, but, like, there's no reason why you couldn't have at least put a staff in her hand.
Right.
No reason.
Well, now, timeline-wise, I guess, do you think that was an actual recreation of that scene? Or do you think it was a nod to, like, a refresher of that scene, like it's happening again? Like, do you think that scene in Rebels happened before they started training together and went off?
Well...
Or was that just this?
I think it was a recreation. I think everything when Sabine has long hair happened before the last scene in Rebels.
Okay.
And then that was the last scene in Rebels. That's what I think. Because she says in Rebels, she realizes that she's supposed to go and find you. I'm supposed to go and find you, Ezra. And this is her going to find him, going with Ahsoka. So I thought it was a recreation because she also does she reaches up and taps Ezra on the cheek, which she does in the Rebels episode as well, as long as unless that's just something that she does every time.
Right, it's just her day. Like, I wake up, I go touch Ezra's face, and it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I interpreted it as a recreation of that.
Okay. And you've seen that
without the staff.
final scene much more recently than I have. So
last night.
In my brain, it was like,
oh no, 2 nights ago. Sorry, Monday night. Yeah.
Yeah. In my brain, I'm like, I kind of remember that. It kind of looked like it. Like that's a nice touch. That's a nice homage. But if it
Yeah.
was like
Again, like
verbatim that shot, then
right, it's close enough
yeah,
that it is fine. Like doesn't I mean it clearly bothers me enough to bring it up, but like I said, not enough that I'm gonna
Yep.
say that this show is bad because they didn't do that exact thing.
right.
But so yeah, did we get through all
I think
your
we did.
notes? I've got through everything that I think I wanted to say, but yeah, Steve, I got to say this is real strong start for this show.
Yeah, I'd agree. I, was it like a pure A plus? I don't think it was pure like everything was perfect, but there
No.
was enough that was good and moving in the right direction, and enough way they set up a plot. Like it was a little slow, it was methodical, but I think that's giving things like we talked earlier room to breathe, and
Yeah.
that may pay off later in the season, especially for people that don't know the crew and like any of the backstory.
Yeah. And also what's exciting is that I feel like, again, I didn't watch the most recent trailer, but I think most of the stuff that I remember seeing in the trailers was from these 2 episodes.
Yep.
So we've got 6 more. This is an 8-episode series total.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So we have 6 more episodes of stuff we have not seen anything from.
Nice.
Or if so, it was very quick shots, like little things. Like
Right.
all the main shots I remember from the trailers were from these 2 episodes. So that's very exciting for me.
Awesome.
To just be going into a show that I already really like, with characters I already like, in a franchise that I love, going in, I get more Star Wars and I don't know what's coming. Hell yeah.
Yep.
I'm in. So, we will be, I don't know, Steve, are we going to do this every Wednesday, do you think? Or are we just going to roll it into the Sunday
I don't know.
night recording? I guess we'll have to see what our schedules are like.
Yeah.
The next few Wednesdays, in the next 6 Wednesdays. But
I was going to say the hype meter as to where we are and what our thoughts are almost says we probably should try and do a Wednesday. And then peter off it if it dies, if for some reason it unfortunately dies on the vine, then yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that there won't be an episode or 2 that's maybe a little slower or feels like filler or something like that. But I feel like because this is written, all these episodes were written by Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
The guy that was the main creator of Rebels, showrunner. He knows these characters, probably better than most people, writes them better than most people. So, I'm sure that he's had this story in his head for years. Right. So I'm sure he knows where it starts, and I'm sure he knows where he wants it to end to. So there's been complaints about Star Wars in the past not having a plan. I think this guy's got a plan.
Dave's got a plan.
I think
it's all under the hat.
Yeah. And it seems like they're really letting him cook. Like they give him a hour-long opening episode instead of being like, nah, make it a half hour. Right. Like they're letting him do his thing. So hopefully that continues.
Nice.
So
I'm pumped. I did realize
Ahsoka.
There's no chance I can do next Wednesday. So
okay. Well, it comes out on Tuesdays. Tano Tuesdays. So we'll see.
True. Tuesday I can do. Wednesday I can't do.
We'll see.
So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
More to come. We may figure this out by our recording on Sunday, which you should check out by following us on your podcatcher of choice or watching us on YouTube and liking, subscribing so you know when we go live.
Yeah, which is usually Sunday nights at 9:30 for a recap of all of your week's nerdy news, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, all that kind of stuff. Comics, comic reviews. Sponsored by Funky Town Comics in Camillus, New York.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can check us out there and
where
listen to us.
You can actually find a first appearance of Ahsoka Tano if you want to.
You sure can, in comic book form. If you got a few $100 laying around you don't know what to do with, and you love Ahsoka Tano.
Somebody go buy it so I don't have to keep looking at it.
I know, it's driving Steve crazy. Someone's got to take it off the shelf. Please. All right. That's all we got for now. Let us know what you think of the show so far. Comment on this video or drop us a line at any of our social medias. We're pretty active on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. And you know, you can drop us a line at the multiverse report at gmail.com. If you want to give us your opinion, we'll read it on the air and talk about it. But that's it. So next time we'll see you is Sunday night at 9:30 with your week's nerdy news recap. And until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the multiverse.